And so I wanted to share a statement that I gave to the Board of Trustees at UMass-Amherst. So a little bit of background about how UMass governs. So UMass, it has 5 campuses. So this is UMass-Amherst is the flagship campus of the UMass community, and there are 4 other campuses. And so CIRC, like I was saying, our mission is trifold: to support survivors, to educate the campus community, and to advocate for institutional and policy change at the institution we are here at UMass-Amherst and all 5 UMass institutions. And so UMass has a shared governance system. So UMass has a board of trustees that are very wealthy alumni and are surprisingly diverse, and they are the ones who pass campus-wide policy. And so they meet 4 times a year. And a lot of ways that activist organizations at UMass-Amherst and other UMass institutions have really worked to push forward their campaigns and to win their campaigns is by agitating the Board of Trustees and mobilizing their students and telling the Board of Trustees, we have this issue on campus, and that we want you to speak openly, that you denounce this issue, or that you're willing to support us. There's an organization on campus called UMass Divestment from Fossil Fuels. They had a campaign that ran for 3 years advocating for UMass to divest from their investments in fossil fuels. And for UMass-Amherst, with our endowment, the divestment is maybe a couple $1 million. It's a drop in the bucket for UMass in terms of our investments. But it took this organization 3 years to mobilize and agitate the Board of Trustees and target them. And their activism is really powerful, and I think of them as a framework for a lot of activism around this country that has been successful. When I think about the Black Lives Matter movement and how successful they've been in organizing, people of color, Black folks, and also allies, I think a lot of it comes down to direct action and direct action organizing. And so within CIRC's history, in the past 2 years that I ran this organization, we had a lot of protests. And every spring, we would hold a week of action for survivors' rights. And so one of my best friends, Liz Mungaman, was my vice president and my organizing partner at the time in 2015, and we co-wrote a policy document called the Survivors' Bill of Rights. And a version of this was actually passed through President Obama's office a couple of weeks ago, almost a month ago. And so this is a 13-page document that we wrote with other UMass students in between all our other obligations, and also finding time to eat and sleep. And we also co-wrote this document with national organizers from an organization called Know Your 9, which was created by a survivor from Amherst College. And they do national work to support survivors and student survivors of sexual violence. And they work a lot with other survivor support organizations, and they have really important statistics and organizing toolkits, and they've testified before Congress, and they do a lot of really incredible work. And so we wrote this 13-page document, the Survivors' Bill of Rights, asking for increased protections and support and resources and accommodations for survivors on campus. Rape as a crime has lower than a 2% false report rate. So that means it is the lowest false report rate of any crime in the country. So when someone comes out and says that they were sexually assaulted, or they were raped, or they experienced intimate partner violence from someone, they're not getting anything out of it. And the statistics of them lying is very, very minimal. So when we have President-elect Trump, which I even have a difficult time calling him our President-elect, saying, even in presidential debates, and widely publicized debates that millions and millions of people around the world are watching, that women are coming out and saying that they were assaulted by him or they're groped by him. A 14-year-old said that they were assaulted by him. His rhetoric, his rebuttal is that, these women are looking for money, they're looking for fame. And I think that is a symptom of rape culture, and that is a symptom of how we have enabled someone like this to get to this position of power. We have an openly fascist person, taking over our office. How are we going to support and protect each other? And so at the Board of Trustees level, we have been advocating for the institution of a Survivors' Bill of Rights, not only at UMass-Amherst, but also a version of it at all 5 UMass campuses, to increase accommodations for survivors, support and resources. In the Pioneer Valley, I don't know if you'll have heard of the Center for Women and Community, also known as the CWC. They're housed right up the road at the New Africa House. They're an incredible organization, and they provide education, they provide workshops, and they also have a rape crisis hotline. And so they are like the premier go-to place for folks who are looking for survivor support. And they service the whole Pioneer Valley. And so they are the main resource for folks who exist within our institution. We have about 21,000 undergraduate students at UMass and about 7,000 or 8,000 grad students. We have about 30,000 students and only one center for the community. And so within our policy document, we asked for more resources like the CWC or to bolster resources like this institution to give more money and more focus into sexual health education and consent education, and what no means no means, and what enthusiastic consent means. And I think a lot of this information is lacking in institutions. I didn't know what consent was until I came to college, until I was a sophomore. This was in 2012. I was an RA on campus, and CERB was just founded at UMass-Amherst. And so I think these interventions need to be happening even at a younger age, in high school and middle school, talking about consent. You don't have to have that on to if you don't want to. And so I think even on small micro levels, that is how we enact change, and that is how we prevent in 2020 someone who is like Donald Trump from taking office. And so we also asked for accommodations and financial support. So when survivors report their assailant, they tend to go through the Dean of Students office on campus, through university police. There are certain institutions and departments on campus that are confidential and certain that are private. And a lot of times students don't know which one is which. And so once they're finally in a place where they feel like they want to report, they tend to get sent from department to department. They lose agency over who knows their story. And if their abuser or their assailant is another UMass student, it immediately goes to the Dean of Students office, and they lose all control over whether that report is adjudicated or not. So a lot of survivors experience barriers to reporting. A lot of survivors don't feel safe reporting. I myself am a survivor. I've given consulting and support and provided resources to other survivors. And I never reported any of my assaults because I have studied, the statistics, and I've studied how difficult it is to go through the adjudication process. When you look at the national climate of violence in our country, Brock Turner, highly publicized rape case. He was a Stanford University swimmer. He assaulted an unconscious woman behind a dumpster, and he was only sentenced to 6 months of jail. So he was incarcerated, supposed to be incarcerated for 6 months. The judge let him off in 3. And so every state has different governances and different laws on how rape cases and sexual violence cases are adjudicated. And so in the state of California, at the time, I don't think they had an affirmative consent policy. Now they do. Now it's enacted in law. And so Brock Turner got away with just 3 months for changing the course of someone's life, for causing trauma, for causing violence. A lot of times, folks don't realize that a lot of costs are incurred from violence. You have to, if your assailant or your abuser lives with you in your house and you live on campus, you have to move houses if that makes you feel safe. You have to change classes. You have to get a rape kit if that's something that you feel would be helpful for you if you decide to report or adjudicate your case at a later time. So a lot of survivors, if they withdraw from campus for a semester, if they withdraw from the university, they lose their $8,000 of tuition, they lose all their financial aid. They have a very difficult time navigating a way back into the institution. And so there are a lot of barriers to survivors reporting, and so my friend Liz and I created this Bill of Rights because we feel that these barriers shouldn't exist, and that survivors have already been through enough, and they already have to have really uncomfortable conversations with their peers and their family members, and sometimes the Dean of Students office, and explain, this is what happened to me, this is what I need. And so within CERC, we believe that survivors are the people who are best informed in how to self-advocate. Survivors know who they are and what they need, and they just need support in accessing those resources. And so we created this policy, and we've been fighting for it for the past 2 years, and the Board of Trustees has decided to come back to us with statistics from other 4 UMass campuses on their sexual assault policies. And we've also been working with the UMass-Amherst administration for the past 2 years with Vice Chancellor Enku Galai and Deborah Ferrer, our Title IX coordinator. We've had a lot of very tense meetings and a lot of very healing and powerful meetings. And they've enacted a lot of the clauses that we've asked for within our Survivors' Bill of Rights, so that we want to pass the whole document. And so I know I'm probably going over a little bit, but that is the basis of the work that a lot of sexual assault survivors are doing in this country. They're doing on this campus. There are a lot of ways to support these organizations. The day after Trump was elected, I saw on Facebook and on social media a lot of people creating long lists of organizations to donate to, like Planned Parenthood, like the ACLU, and a lot of these donations were made in the name of Donald Trump and Mike Pence, so they get a notification every time someone makes a $100 donation in their name. And I think those are some really powerful ways to agitate our legislators. And so if you're looking for an organization to donate to, I highly recommend you donate to the organization Know Your 9. It's Know Your and IX. You can also look them up online. They're incredible. They're all recent graduates under the age of 30, and they are working so hard with very little money to educate our institutions and students and community members about sexual assaults and how to create a consent culture and how to protect and support and love each other moving forward from this election. So I know that was a lot. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to discussions later.